Hey, everybody, we're back, and it's time for some more Good Mom. I'm here with my friend Sunny, and we were just talking about the fact that it's summertime or almost summertime. And one of the things I have the greatest memories about is doing road trips and
Mm.
just taking summertime trips with family. I can recall getting in the car in Washington State. My dad is, hell bent for fury to have us in Sacramento by noon.
Oh my
And we,
gosh.
I'm kidding, but kind of not. And we would, pile in this little tiny car and drive down Interstate 5 for a
Yeah.
good solid 14 hours straight. And then get to Sacramento, and there we were with grandma and grandpa, and, playing around. And I just remember so many happy, joyful memories. And then also some things that were difficult and challenging as a kid. So let's just talk today, Senny, a little bit about tripping, road tripping, how we get to and fro with kids. Let's talk about that. Because
Wait,
sometimes
Lindsay, are we there yet? Are
I
we
know.
there yet?
Is there yet? Mom, he's on my side. Oh, jeez. Yeah.
Things parents love to hear on road
Yeah,
trips.
these are the things. Oh, and I still remember my brother and I, we would draw a line down the middle of the back seat, and just say, "No, you cannot cross my side." And 14 hours later, yeah, geez, somebody's crossed somebody's side, and it's, what do we remember even about all of this? It's kind of hysterical.
Were
So
you in a station wagon or no, different type of car?
sometimes every year we had a new car. That was in a whole other episode. We could talk about our parents and cars and all kinds of stuff. But no, I just think taking a trip with kids, generally, it's not a full fledged, this is not always the case, but it usually falls on mom to pack everything, to remember everything, to be the person who doesn't forget the stuff that you need. I don't care if it's a camping trip, a road trip, an airplane trip. If mom doesn't have it, everything falls apart. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit and think about when was the last time, or maybe you have an upcoming trip. I know you do with your kids. And
Mm.
how does that make you feel as a mom? Because you're in charge of the whole shebang. So let's talk about that for a minute.
Like you, Lindsay, I remember as a kid, every year, twice a year actually, my parents and I would hop in the minivan and we would drive down to Florida, two different
Ooh,
places in Florida, so both southern parts of Florida. And
yeah.
at the time, I lived in Ohio because that's where I'm originally from.
Okay.
So we did that whole trip. And for my parents loved it
Yeah.
because it was an opportunity for them to start to unwind. Like it
Hmm.
took them a little bit of time.
Yeah.
And you don't get that when you're flying, right? It's like, oh, you're busy,
No.
you're in an airport, and it's like, and we've
Oh, and
already
it's
talked
so
about the
stressful.
crazy things that can happen with kids and airplanes, right?
Yeah.
And then you're at your location. It's like, wait, how did I get here? And then you have to decompress, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So for my parents, they loved being able to do that together, and they worked together. They actually owned a business together, so they were able to kind of decompress together, talk about stuff, and get in vacation mode. Now,
Nice.
for me, I'm an only child. I had a brother that passed away, but growing up, there was like 12 years difference between us. So my
Oh,
mom always said
yeah.
she had two only children
Yeah.
because that's
Yeah.
just kind of
That
how
makes
we
sense.
grew up.
Totally. Yes. Yeah.
And so it was just me and my parents. Now I,
Yeah.
I had to learn real quick to entertain myself because you're talking about 20 plus hours. We stopped, at a hotel or whatever, but to drive all the way down to get from Ohio to, Southern Florida. So, I had my Walkman and, at the time I had a very, and still do have a very vivid imagination. And
Mhm.
I was a dancer when I was growing up. So I would like choreograph dance routines in my head on the way down. I would,
That's
I would do all
fun.
this kind of crazy stuff. But it was nice. I mean, I always complained about it because it
Yeah.
was like,
I
gosh,
know.
this
I
is a
remember
long
that.
time.
Yeah.
But there's benefits, and even
Yeah.
we have silly memories of like stopping at a hotel that was a little shady and like the stupid stuff that happened, or times we slept in our van because that
Ex-
happened as well. You know,
Absolutely.
and
The memories. Yeah.
yes, it's a
Mhm.
bonding experience
Yeah.
that you have that was
You
fun.
create so many memories on those adventures. We used to
Yes.
call them adventures, and they were always about, we call them, we're going on a family outing. And oh my goodness, you just mentioned those words to my kids today, and I think it might bring back some PTSD. I'm not sure. But if
Yeah.
we just use the word family outing, and here we go, we're going to go do something. It would go to a state park. It could have been drive to go see somebody. The key thing as a parent today is to not let your kids just stay glued to the technology that they want to stay
Yes.
glued to pass the time.
Hmm.
And that was hard. I remember we used to play the license plate game, and it was always
Oh
like,
yeah.
can you find one from start with Alaska and then Alabama? It took a while.
Uh-huh.
And on a long trip, you actually could get close to 50 states.
It's true. Yeah.
But we got to come up with some ways to connect with the kids in the back seat. Or maybe you have young kids who are driving and give them an opportunity to practice driving on the road trip.
Hmm.
It's all the things that allow for the connection. And it doesn't have to be 24/7. We're not saying that. But I just noticed that I was recently on a plane and went and just was watching families both in the airport and then on the plane, literally drag out a piece of technology, whether it was an iPad, a Game Boy, or something,
Yeah.
and hand it to their kid and then basically say, sit down, shut up, and be quiet until we get there. And this is like a 5.5 hour flight or whatever, And
Yeah.
I'm just going, there's got to be something better.
Yeah.
I feel like kids today already have enough screen time, and maybe there's a way to get them to play a game, a card game. Do you remember playing like physical cards, 52 cards on a
Oh
plane?
yeah. Oh,
Didn't
oh
they used to
yeah.
give us a deck of cards at one time, like in the way back machine? I know I'm dating myself now, but
I'm I'm telling you though, like when you're an only child, when you have to do this on your own, I had those little figurines. I had
yeah,
Smurf and Pac-Man, and
right.
I think Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And so for hours, I just
You'd
had a
make
little bag of
shoes.
figurines, and I would just play. Like I'm thinking of the
Totally.
plane. My parents used to take me wherever they traveled, and they took some pretty elaborate vacations. So I
Yeah,
remember one time we were traveling to Europe, and I think I was like 8 or maybe 9 years old, and it was a long flight.
yeah.
And I just pulled out my little figurines, and
Figurines.
I just played. My mom was like, "You played with those figurines like the entire flight," and
See,
I was
I
happy as a clam.
And I love that because I think that today the kids are missing that opportunity to expand their imagination
Yeah,
in through something that's other than digital. And so
yeah,
I love to color and draw. That was
yeah.
one of my favorite things. So I can recall going on road trips or plane trips, and my parents would give me just a little drawing book with some colored pencils or something so that I could actually make new stories in this art book. I was never good at it, but that didn't matter. And I was thinking too, maybe there's a way to come up with a really cool coloring book that has super awesome, powerful words of affirmation,
That's what I was
so
saying too.
that as the
Affirmation.
kids are coloring them, they're taking in that word of
Mhm.
strength and courage and bravery and love and whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's subtle, but I'll tell you, parents, we can't rely on digital and electronics and batteries. I mean, I watched a kid have a meltdown when the battery died.
Oh gosh.
What do you
Yeah.
do? So we have to give them some other creative outlet, something that allows them to look out the window, count the clouds. That'll keep them occupied.
I
You know?
Spy. I did I Spy with my kids.
Oh
We
yeah,
did that quite a bit, like on road trips. We don't do a lot now,
yeah.
but there are a couple that we take. So I mentioned how we go back to Ohio
Yeah.
for a good portion of the summer. And now I'm down to 2 kids instead of 4 kids coming back. But hey, I'll take what I can get. So we're planning a trip to drive from Ohio to Washington, D.C. this summer
Okay.
because we're going to go tour, the White House and the Capitol building, Supreme Court, all that fun stuff, and taking my girls with us,
Great.
and then my parents and myself. That's a good 8 or 9 hour drive from where they're at in Ohio.
Yeah.
And I know I Spy is a popular thing. We do bring cards.
See?
What's another thing? We do sing-alongs like in the car. We do really silly stuff like that. Or
That's
like,
awesome.
if you play like a theme song, who can guess the theme song for the show? Who can guess it
That'd be
first?
awesome. awesome. Yeah, totally. You're humming the tune of Gilligan's Island and your kids are going, I don't know what that is. Ah!
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
there
but
is
it's
a bit of a generational age gap
yeah, right?
sometimes.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. Yeah, you're just reminding me of another super fun thing we did as a kid. We used to go skiing as a family, and we'd all go up to the mountains, and it took about 90 minutes to get there. And
Yeah.
we had this car with an 8-track tape player in it.
Oh my
Now
God.
this is really dating. This is like way back. This is when I was a kid, everybody.
Yeah.
But it was so fun because my brother and I would choose the music. And we'd get to, choose the track and which songs we wanted. And that was a thing that our parents did with us. So, again, it was empowering. It was fun. We got to do stuff for 90 minutes that was outside of the norm. And
Yeah.
I think that's it. I think that's what, taking trips with your kids really does is it expands their minds, expands their hearts, gives them an opportunity to see new things and play new things and try new things. And having that skill in the future
Yeah.
is critical.
Yeah.
It's, staying, I call it dancing with discomfort, knowing how to dance with your discomfort and do the thing anyway. And trying to have fun with it is a critical skill
Yeah.
for adulting in the real world. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And I
yeah,
also think that it's okay for your kids to be quote unquote bored sometimes.
totally.
Because
Absolutely.
they're not always going to be entertained in life, and they've got to figure stuff out. And it's not even that they're bored. It's just for that one moment something doesn't feel super entertaining to them.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And but that's the I don't know. I think that can be a crucial part of that's when your imagination can kick in, right? And you
Absolutely.
can start like me playing with those little fig. I don't even remember what I was thinking. How do as an adult I'm like, how does a kid play with figurines for like a 9-hour flight? I don't know,
Yeah.
but somehow my imagination took over. I don't know what was going on there,
That's
and I was
awesome.
I was in my own world, and
Yeah.
time flew by,
I think
and
that's the key. You just said something there I want to really pull out too. Some kids will feel inspired to write a song. Some kids will be inspired to draw a picture. Some kids will be inspired to create a world.
yeah,
You know your kid. Everybody that's listening to us right now, you know what your child is into and what they like. Why don't you motivate them to try doing what they already love to do?
right,
So, if they love to sing and they love music, invite them to write a song.
yep,
I'm expecting at the end of 2 hours, we're going to have the first draft of this song and we'll stop and have lunch and you're going to give it to us. Or, how about a drawing? Or, how about a new world? Maybe you're inventing a game. Maybe you're inventing something else. Maybe you're just an inventor, period. What's a problem you'd like to solve in the world? I'd love to see your answers in 2 hours. But
exactly.
thinking like that and getting outside the box is what adventure, it's what going on a family outing, it's what doing a trip is all
Mhm.
about. It's get outside your box. We have one thing we have to add to this. We're talking about this. What to do with really crabby pants kids who decide, I'm going to throw a fit right now
Yeah.
because I don't want to be bored. I don't want to have this discomfort. And I think that's a really important conversation. I know from my point of view, what I typically would do is take my child and talk to them. Listen to, hey, I know this is uncomfortable, might be a little scary, might be boring, might not be your favorite thing to do. And this is also part of being a human on the planet.
Yeah.
It's this is it. And your behavior doesn't really lend itself very nicely to other people wanting to engage with you. They don't really want to play with you. Nobody really wants to hear this. We'd rather hear your contribution. And kids do understand that even at a very young age.
Mhm.
Maybe not 2 and 3 where the verbal capacity isn't there, but by the time they're 6 or 7, heck yeah, you can talk to them.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you do when one of your kids is melting down at a circumstance?
And it does happen, trust
it,
me.
it does. We've
So,
all been there.
like you, I try to listen. I try to
Mhm.
understand what the problem is. And I
Yeah.
do some of the tactics that you were just talking about. So,
Oh, cool.
helping them to understand the situation. So, if they're really like, I don't want to
Yeah.
be here, I don't want to do this, it's like, Well, no one really wants to just sit on a plane or in a car for like 8 or 9 hours.
No.
It's if there was a better way to get from here to there, like if we could teleport, I would prefer to teleport.
Me too.
We're not quite there yet.
I'm all in for the unlimited teleportation right there.
Yes, me too. Me too. But for them to understand, listen, you're kind of in the same boat as everyone else, but how are you going to deal with this? And how are you going to overcome this? Because we are going to be in this car or in this plane or in this whatever train for X amount of hours. You can either have a bad experience because you're choosing to behave badly, or you can see the positive in this and you can try to get something out of this, So I think that's important is, first of all, understanding where they're coming from and them understanding, like you said, where do they fit in this equation? You're not alone. You're not whatever. And then a final thing, and you can do this with young kids too. If something feels off with them, and even if they're too young to really communicate that, show them love. Yeah. Show them love in some way. That will help calm them down, may not completely resolve the situation. Hold them if they're younger, or if you've got kids like me that are a little bit more standoffish, send them vibes of love. Just feel love. Feel like you're sending them that love, and that should help calm them down as well.
Beautiful. I think we've just solved all the tripping problems. So thanks, honey. Let's get on a plane. We're out of here. Peace out, everybody.